trade wars. Really want to get your thoughts on that because it's become very relevant in the last few months as we've seen Trump battle China. What's going on and what are the potential ramifications for everybody involved?
Right. Well, the trade wars, I say, are right on schedule. And what I mean by that, in 2011, my first book was called Currency Wars. And the currency wars that we're in started in 2010. I love getting calls from reporters, you know, like Today or whatever. They'll say, hey, Jim, there's a currency war going on. I said, well, no, it started 10 years ago. This is just a continuation of the same currency war. But the point I made, we're not in currency wars all the time, but when we are, they can last for 10 or 15 or 20 years. So I'm not surprised that here we are in 2019, and we're in the same currency war that started in 2010, and that's what my book, Currency Wars, was about.
And what is a currency war for people that might not understand?
Currency wars arise in a condition of too much debt, not enough growth. Because if you have enough growth, a big country like the United States doesn't care. It's like, whatever, you want to devalue your currency, who cares? It's small change. There's enough growth to go around. But if you have too much debt and not enough growth, you can't borrow your way out of the problem. And so you look for other techniques. And one of them is currency devaluation. So what do? You say, well, you know, you're whatever, UK, Europe, US. You say, I'll devalue my currency. Well, what do you get for that? Well, you lower your unit labor costs, you stimulate exports and export-related jobs, and you import inflation because your people have to pay more because your currency is worth less.
And this is what China has been doing, or Trump was accusing China of doing.
Go back to Geithner. I mean, China was doing it, but so was the U.S. People forget the dollar hit an all-time low in August 2011. That was the all-time low for the dollar, not all that long ago. And then we sort of passed the canteen to Europe and let them take the euro. Euro was $1.60, and then it went down to like $1.03. So they got to devalue. So everyone's taking turns. But the problem with currency wars, they don't work. And the reason is that you get retaliation. So if one and only one major trading partner devalued the currency, it would work fine. And that was the old IMF system with fixed exchange rates. But now what happens is somebody else devalues, and then you devalue again, and they devalue again, and it becomes a race to the bottom. So after some years, people realize it doesn't work because any advantage is temporary and it's quickly taken away by trading partners. So then, and this kind of goes to your original question, Brian, then you go into trade wars. Say, well, currency wars don't work, we're not getting anywhere, so let's go into trade wars. And the theory is kind of the same. I'll put tariffs against your goods, that'll increase the price of imports, make exports relatively more attractive, etc. But that doesn't work either because you get countervailing tariffs. So you get a tariff war, a trade war, instead of a currency war, and we're in that now.
With China.
With
US
China,
and China.
correct.
Yeah.
But Europe is next.
Okay.
Trump's going to put tariffs on German cars next month. So,
Really?
Yeah, so this is going to spread. I do say the UK will be one of the winners because if you're going to pick a fight with everybody, you need a few friends. And I think Boris Johnson or the UK government will be one of his friends. But the point being, the problem with what I just said, and it is historically accurate and analytically accurate, is the sequence is currency wars, trade wars, shooting wars. Shooting wars solve the problem. Mass mobilization warfare, destruction of capital, and 50 million dead. Very good for the labor market, very good for construction, very good for recovery. Not a great way to get there, but history is that shooting wars follow trade wars. So let's hope that doesn't happen. Let's talk a little bit about the trade war. So we're in it. A lot of people say, well, this started in January 2018 because Trump put tariffs on solar panels and appliances, your refrigerators or whatever, dishwashers in particular. Well, yeah, you could say that, but I would say the trade war started in 1994 when China did a maxi devaluation of the yuan, continued through 2001 when they made a bunch of promises to join the WTO, World Trade Organization, and broke every single promise, continued through the early 2000s when they were manipulating the currency, and continued through 2016 where they were admitted to the IMF special drawing right basket of currencies, one of only 5, and lied to the IMF because they said we'd have an open capital account, and they shut the capital account the following year. So the history of China is they cheat, lie, steal, break every rule all along the way.
And this is what Trump kind of ran on, saying that we need a better deal with China.
Right. So what he did in 2018, I view as the U.S. finally got the wake-up call and retaliated. So if you want to say we started the trade war in 2018, fine. But my view is what we really started, we were going to fight back for a change.
Was it the right move?
Oh, absolutely. It's 20 years too late, but that was
How come no other president did that?
Because they're globalists. They were willing to see growth in China at the U.S. expense, even though they were American presidents, because they bought into a globalist view propagated by people like Jeffrey Sachs, who's like a serial killer of economies. So here
you're not a globalist.
No.
Okay.
So here's the globalist mantra, and this goes back to the 1990s, and whether it's Richard Haas, Jeffrey Sachs, President Clinton, President Bush, many others. It's a long list of people. They said, look, we understand that Chinese are communists and they're kind of bad actors and they do bad things, but if they're willing to embrace something that looks a little bit like capitalism, they will grow richer. They will grow more sophisticated. The education level will go up. We will accommodate that by letting them join the World Trade Organization and the IMF, even though we know they lie, cheat, steal, because they will eventually get rich enough that they will be just like us. They'll throw off their communist masters, embrace a Western model, and it'll be just like Europe. We're all on the same team, democratic, quasi-socialist, but democratic, capitalist, liberal, in quotation marks, societies, and China will be just like us. That was the theory. I said it was wrong at the time, and time has proved that correct, meaning they're just rich communists. I said the only thing worse than a poor communist is a rich communist. And so we have created rich communists at the expense of our own workers, at the expense of our own economies. They are not like us. They're more communists than ever. Communists, atheists. The human rights violations are incalculable. If you're a Uyghur, maybe a Muslim Uyghur, or a Catholic in China, and you express any dissent at all, you will be arrested. You will be put in a concentration camp, a re-education camp, where you will be indoctrinated with communist philosophy. Maybe you'll get it, maybe you'll fake it, maybe you won't. But for those who apparently don't get it, they're strapped to an operating table without anesthetic, and their organs are removed while they're still alive and sold to the organ tourism industry, this huge multi-billion-dollar transplant industry in China, and then they cremate the bodies.
And that's real. I've heard rumors that's happening.
That's real. That's real. And what does that sound like? Killing innocent people and cremating the bodies. Have we seen that movie before? So that's huge. I don't know why we do business with China at all.
Really?
I mean, I'm with Kyle Bass on this. I know Kyle. He's brilliant and good, nice guy. But he sees this for what it is. I see it for what it is. And I've been to China enough, and I've been out of the big cities and got mud on my feet, going to construction sites and ghost cities and talk to Communist Party officials. And so they're
because you can't see this in the main cities, right? You won't get that feel in Beijing and Shanghai. You have to get out west.
No, they got to move the organs around. They got to move the kidneys and hearts around to where they're needed. But meanwhile, the victims are being cremated. So that's who you're dealing with. They're not getting more like us. They've elevated Xi to, first of all, president for life. There used to be this, you got two 5-year terms, and then in your second term, you you kind of announced or anointed your successor, who would then pick up the reins at the end of your second 5-year term. That process was, which is driven by consensus, was working very well and giving China a little bit of stability. Xi tore it up. He's in his second 5-year term now, but he did not announce a successor, and at the last National Party Congress, they changed the rules so that he can stay on indefinitely. So he's president for life. They also created something called Xi Thought, which is a big deal because it elevates his ideological musings to the level of Mao Thought. He's only the second Chinese leader to get that designation. All the others, okay, you're president of China, head of the Communist Party, whatever, but they were never treated on a par with Mao. Xi is. So we have Xi Thought. We have, gross human rights violations, geopolitical confrontation, near war in the South China Sea, testing the boundaries with India, all the, intellectual property theft, lie, cheat, steal through the economy. Their numbers are fake, by the way. I'm sure you've heard of something called Goodhart's Law, and which is very valuable. Goodhart's Law says, when a metric becomes the object of policy, it loses meaning as a metric. So in other words, if you compute your GDP honestly, it's valuable information. It tells you what your economy is doing. But the minute you target GDP as a matter of policy, it loses meaning because you're just manipulating to a result.
And that's what they're doing.
That's what they're doing.
How does this play out? They also make all of our electronics.
We'll first of all, we'll start making our own. And this is a big deal because U.S. companies are watching this now. Apple's although Chinese value added in the iPhone is about 6 or 7%. 100% of the cost of an iPhone is treated as a Chinese export and a U.S. import, but their value added is only about 7%, give or take, because they buy the Gorilla Glass they buy from Germany, the circuits they buy from Japan, they buy other components from South Korea, so they have to pay as much as they get, and then they're just assemblers. These are Lego-style assembly jobs.
They do it better than anyone else can right now.
Correct, and don't underestimate the extent of the poor working conditions, slave labor, prisoner labor, some of the things that go into this.
Okay.
But American companies are getting the wake-up call. They're getting the message. Tim Cook talks to the president on a regular basis, and what they're doing, this is a very big deal. They're moving the supply chain origin to Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, and these are 10-year decisions. You don't move your factory from China to Vietnam and then move it back next year if things are good. You keep it there. Again, these are major fixed assets, major long-term investments. Right. So if you move it out, you're not coming back, maybe ever. And so these are permanent losses of jobs to China, and their GDP is overstated, grossly overstated. My adjustment gets them down from round numbers from about 6.2% to maybe a little under 4, 3.8 or so. But I've seen other scholars whose opinion I respect say it's more like 2.5%, and some say 0. Okay. So China is the growth slowdown is abrupt. It's material, and it's getting worse. And so what will happen is Xi's status is now at risk. I mean, okay, he may be president for life and Xi thought and all that. He may be the most powerful leader since Mao, but the Cultural Revolution got a little bit out of control for Mao too. And so the Politburo, they're going to be careful, but they may get rid of Xi at some point. Or you may see social unrest. You may see Hong Kong writ large. And Hong Kong's not going away. That situation's not getting better.
Hi, Brian Rose here, founder and host of London Real. If you've ever wondered what's going on behind government's closed doors and how do insiders capitalize on hidden moves triggered by these secret decisions, then I have something you need to see. Jim Rickards is a former CIA operative and world economics expert. He and I recently sat down to discuss all of this on London Real. And now he's sharing a 15-year-old government secret, one that could legally put thousands of dollars in your pocket.
After 15 years of secrecy, I'm revealing the sensitive information on camera.
He's giving London Realers exclusive access to this private broadcast, where he'll go on camera and reveal all the details behind a secret that could affect thousands of people, starting this coming week.
Simply put, the brief revealing video below could change how you think of me. I hope you understand. Click below to see it.
All you have to do is click the link below or go to londonreal.tv/Jim and sign up. Then we will send you all the details to gain access. It's totally free, but if you don't sign up, you'll never see it. And because of the nature of this event, you'll understand why Jim can't keep it online forever. So don't miss your chance to find out the secret and potentially make profits from it. Click the link below and I will see you at the free training.